is like accounting. Everything must be balanced. Quote. A very good evening to all of you. It's my honor to welcome you to the General Assembly of the Young Chartered Accountants Forum. Young Chartered Accountants Forum, or popularly known as the Ycaf, was established in 2009, where it created a platform for younger members of CA Sri Lanka. To start off today's proceedings, we will have the traditional lighting of the oil lamp, and I request the following dignitaries to kindly come forward. Mr. Manel Jayasinghe, President CA Sri Lanka. Ms. Dulani Fernando, Chief Executive Officer CA Sri Lanka. Ms. Anuji De Silva, Council Member. Mr. Saman Srilal, Council Member. Ms. Jani Ganeshan, Immediate Past President Ycaf. Mr. Mohammed Fazir, President Ycaf. Ms. Tilini Nadisha, Vice President Ycaf. Ms. Radhini Thomas, Secretary Ycaf. And Ms. Nishani Pereira, Treasurer Ycaf. Thank you, everyone. Please rise for the national anthem.
Sri Lanka Mata, Appa Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata, Sundara Sri Varini, Surani Ati Somamana Lanka, Dhanya Dhanaya Nikamal Guru Piri Jaya Bhumiya Ranya, Appa Hatta Sappa Siri Sata Sadhana, Jivana Ye Mata, Pili Kanu Mena Appa Bhakti Puja, Namo Namo Mata, Appa Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata, Upave Apavidya, Upamaya Apasatya, Upave Apashanti, Apahad Tuladhanti, Upahaloki, Apadi Anuprani, Upajivanani, Apamuktiya Upave, Navajivanani, Nithina Apakubudukaran Vata, Jnana Vidya Vadavani Niragila Yanu Rila Jaya Bhumikara, Vikramavata Vidanu Kaladarina, Yamu Yamu Vinopama, Prema Mada Salaveka Durala, Namo Namo Mata, Appa Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The required quorum to commence the meeting is now present. So I call the meeting to order. Thank you.
Thank you, Thirini, for confirming the quorum. I kindly invite Mr. Manal Jayasinghe, President CA Sri Lanka, to address the gathering.
Vice President CA Sri Lanka, Mr. Sanjay Bandara, members of Council, CEO Mrs. Dulani Fernando, Ms. Jani Ganeshan, immediate past President of Ycaf, Mr. Fazir Jazir, President of Ycaf, Ms. Tilini Nadisha, Vice President Ycaf, office bearers, members of Ycaf, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you all. First of all, I would like to begin by thanking Ycaf for inviting me on this landmark occasion as you will celebrate your 10th year anniversary. Ycaf has made impressive strides in a very short time, and so I take this opportunity to congratulate the successive office bearers, including the outgoing officers, for an excellent job in inspiring and giving leadership to our younger members. It's truly a privilege to stand before you, dynamic young members, many of whom are today in top positions. As young members of a prestigious institute, the responsibility lying on your shoulders are vast. Each and every one of you have a long and vibrant journey ahead. But to succeed in all your efforts, and even in the efforts of taking Ycaf to greater heights, working together and remaining united is imperative. As professionals belonging to an exceptional brand, the opportunities at your feet as young CAs are unlimited. But as much as the qualification you have is a global passport, I believe it is also your responsibility to build on your existing skills to ensure you remain contemporary. I mentioned this even at the ceremony that was held to invite our younger ACAs. As an institute, I think we have provided you with the qualification, which obviously has a global reach, but what you do with it is up to you. And I keep telling this at very many forums. I believe accountancy is a foundation to many things. Whether you want to become reach the highest end as CEOs, chairmen of companies, or if you want to excel in this field, which is finance, either way, accounting is a key qualification that you require, and that you have. So today, we meet under difficult circumstances due to the pandemic. I'm sure all of us would have loved to have met physically, but unfortunately, due to restrictions, only some can meet and some obviously are connecting virtually. Just yesterday, they detected the first case of Omnicom in Sri Lanka. So we must be extra careful amidst the possibility of another outbreak. Of course, if you go around the city, I don't think anyone is careful. I see a lot of crowds and I don't necessarily see people following all these protocols. But I think you as young members and you are members of our institute, I think you need to be safe and be careful as well. I think when the technology revolution happened, there was a lot of concern about the future of the accounting profession and whether we will continue to be in demand. However, the pandemic has indeed proved that we will. I think this morning I was at another function, AT, where I think the minister said that there was studies to say that the accounting will be a profession that will be out. But I don't think so. I think as chartered accountants, I don't know about other accounting fields, but as chartered accountants, you have been given the skills to be agile enough, as I mentioned to you, to become even the CEO of a organization or even the chairman. And amongst us, we have many past presidents who have become chairmans and CEOs, and we have one here, Mr. Sujio Rajapaksa, who's the chairman of People's Bank, one of the biggest banks. So you can achieve anything you want. So I don't think this question about accounting going out of fashion is quite right. Yes, if you are, I suppose, doing routinous jobs like bookkeeping and things like that, yes, the computers will come and take it over, but that's not what we have been. Our qualification doesn't mean that. Our qualification means a lot. It means that you can participate from strategy formulation to strategy execution to strategy reporting on that strategy. So right through the value chain, you can participate, and I don't think any of that stuff is going to go away. As human beings, a lot of people talk about AI. Once again, artificial intelligence is dependent on data and is dependent on algorithms. So whatever you do, the flexibility and the agility of the human being is never going to come to those. They certainly will be very useful tools in decision making, but whether it will replace the human being is questionable. So according to the research from the chartered accountants worldwide and the Edelman data and intelligence, trust in the accounting profession remains strong after the turmoil of the pandemic, with 1,450 business decision makers consider chartered accountants as among the most trusted professionals, catching up to doctors, engineers, nurses, and teachers, and ahead of the legal profession. According to the research, 84% of business decision makers, 84% of business decision makers believe that chartered accountants have the skill and expertise to make businesses thrive. As much as this number sounds very good, we are also expected to play a larger role in driving sustainable environmental practices within businesses and doing more to foster diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. Just a while ago, I think a vice president and myself, both we were on a call or a conference call, listening to the international community and how sustainability reporting is taking off. And still it is in its infancy. So that's the potential you have going forward. And as accountants or as finance people, you will be in that position to help businesses adopt some of these sustainability practices, reporting on these sustainability practices, what has worked, what has not worked. Unfortunately, all that is part of accounting. So you have, I think, a very bright future. So as young members of the profession, you can be the change the world wants by making or taking the lead and championing for safer planet and a greener investments. Just like J.R. Tolkien once said, even the smallest person can change the course of history. And each one of you in this room has the potential to change history. It's not only in this room and those people who have connected to us virtually. If you believe in being a change maker, take the lead in utilizing this pandemic for the betterment of everyone, especially in the workplace. It is no secret that there has been disparity across the world, with women being forced to take a backseat due to common issues such as the glass ceiling and other factors. Therefore, I strongly believe that the pandemic is an opportunity for all of us to reset and rethink these areas, and also utilize the opportunity to address them and ensure a level playing field in terms of guaranteeing parity in working world. Although we look up to our seniors for guidance, it is ultimately the dynamic younger generation who will steer the profession and the corporate world in the future. So steer it positively by not talking about change, but instead be the change. And a couple of most important things I would like to mention also. This morning also, I think one of the ministers was talking about saying that we have given knowledge to our people. Now we need to learn skills. Yes, skills is important because the application of knowledge comes through skills. But please remember, attitude is also very important. And that is one of the things I think as Sri Lankans, we sometimes tend to lack a little bit. The right attitude. Maybe it's because of the fact that we have been brought up and come through this whole culture of most things being free. Maybe it's that, I don't know. But the passion and attitude is something that you must develop. And if you have that, as I mentioned to you, sky is the limit. You have everything with you. The future of this institute is in your hands. So drive towards this profession and the institute being the best in the world. And that's all in your hands. So thank you very much and have an enjoyable evening.
Thank you very much, sir. Your thought-provoking address has set a tone for the event and for our future activities. The main objective of Ycaf is to uplift the quality of the chartered accountants of CA Sri Lanka while endeavoring to enhance the public image of chartered accountants. Ycaf acts as a facilitator, creator, and a developer of the entertainment and recreational activities of the members of CA Sri Lanka in order to improve fellowship among members of CA Sri Lanka. Also, Ycaf provides a platform for younger chartered accountants to develop their leadership and entrepreneur skills. Ycaf creates opportunities for young chartered accountants to build up a close relationship with the institute and its activities, and also to encourage them to develop their network in the field of their own profession and other business communities. Next is an AV to reminisce over memories of Ycaf's past events. my great pleasure to invite Ms. Jani Ganeshan, immediate past president of Ycaf, to address the gathering, and followed by the induction of the new governing council for the period 2020-2022.
Thank you, Radhini. We cannot always build the future for our youth, but certainly we can build our youth for the future, by Franklin Roosevelt. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. President of CA Sri Lanka, Mr. Manil Jayasinghe, Vice President of CA Sri Lanka, Mr. Sanjay Bandara, Council members, Mr. Heshana Kurupu, Mr. Tishan Subasinghe, Ms. Chamila Kure, Ms. Anojidi Silva, Mr. Saman Srila, Chief Executive Officer of CA Sri Lanka, Ms. Dulani Fernando, our Chief Guest of the day, Mr. Shaban Daniel, past Presidents of CA Sri Lanka, past Presidents of Young Chartered Accountants Forum, invitees, and dear participants. On behalf of the Governing Council of Young Chartered Accountants Forum, it is my great pleasure and privilege to welcome all of you to the 6th Annual General Meeting of Young Chartered Accountants Forum, formerly known as Ycaf. About a decade ago, a versatile group of young dynamic chartered accountants formed Ycaf as they realized the need to groom the younger version of chartered accountants, primarily targeting to develop their leadership skills and interpersonal skills. Today, I could see a few of the founding members being present here who still look good enough to be called as young chartered accountants. Thanks for joining us today. Following the footsteps of great leadership that have been marked over the years, I took over this prestigious position as the 5th President of Young Chartered Accountants Forum with the help of my team, while focusing on taking the journey of young chartered accountants towards their dream destination. My term completed in year 2020. However, this induction ceremony of the new governing council is happening a little bit late due to the deeper and more long-lasting effects of the pandemic. With or without ceremonies, as the members of Young Chartered Accountants Forum, we were on duty, and the incoming president would talk about what we've done during the current term so far and what would be his plans for the future. Sharing a little from the experience that we had in last term from 2018 to 2020, we actually didn't miss or fail to bring out the fun element of our chartered accountants while focusing on their career growth. There were a lot of entertainment events that were conducted by us, including fun-filled paintball tournament, team building outbound programs, our unique motor rally, and many more events that were mainly conducted to give our young members the platform to socialize and network, and specifically to learn from each other when they socialize. Our unique gatherings called knowledge forums were conducted, aiming to develop leadership and entrepreneurial skills among our young members. We invited several business leaders as well as entrepreneurs to address these gatherings to build confidence and ensure that our young members are ready to take over future leadership positions. Also, we had many career guidance and soft skill development programs for the benefit of our younger generation. While focusing on the development of our own fraternity, we didn't forget the fact that we live in a wider community, which also needs our attention. As a part of this thought, we initiated and contributed to many CSR projects, out of which planting 250 trees under the guidance of Wildlife Department was one of the special projects that we conducted. Also, the fundraiser project in aid of the victims of Easter attacks is another tremendous effort by our team. In a time we all as a society were in deep pain, as the members of Young Chartered Accountants Forum, we stepped into the society to help our own people. Financial contributions of our own members have helped some school children whose families were affected by the catastrophe to continue their school education. Some breadwinners managed to find their survival and to find financial assistance for their medical conditions through your contributions. I take this opportunity to thank all our local and overseas members who helped, who contributed in our project, and also who made us realize small can make a big difference in someone's life. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my outgoing governing council for all the hard work throughout this journey, which has made our journey remarkable and memorable. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now it's time for me to induct the incoming governing council. We have few of our members joining virtually as they work overseas. First, let us have a look at those overseas members. Can we have the screen? We have Prashant Muthugala, Senior Accountant, TIP from Canada. We have Charminder Hera, Financial Controller, Shared Services, ACWA Power, joining from UAE. We have Nipuna Ranavira, Manager, Asset and Wealth Management, PwC Malta. We have our Governing Council member, Shashika Tukorala, the Assistant General Manager of Finance from American Premium Water, who is unable to make it today. Let me call upon the rest of the council members to the stage now. Mr. Sina Saki, Manager, Accounts and Finance, Lakpa Footwear Limited. Mr. Shaminder Prasad, Accountant, Rockland Distilleries Limited. Ms. Nishadi Veragala, Associate Director, Mergers and Acquisitions, PwC Sri Lanka. Ms. Nayanthara Suvimali, Finance Business Partner, Lanka Sporting Goods Private Limited. Ms. Nishani Pereira, Partner, Muayar. Ms. Radhini Thomas, Senior Manager, Tax and Regulatory from KPMG, Sri Lanka. Ms. Tilina Nadisha, Vice President of Ycaf, Manager Examinations from Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka. We have Mr. Mohammed Fasir, the incoming President, Senior Audit and Tax Manager, OT David and Company. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for our incoming Governing Council. Over to you, Fasir.
Thank you very much, Jani. Mr. Shevan Daniel, Chief Guest of the Day. Mr. Manil Jayasinghe, President of Sri Lanka. Mr. Sanjay Bandara, Vice President of Sri Lanka. Ms. Dolani Fernando, CEO of Sri Lanka. Council members of Sri Lanka. Past President of Sri Lanka. Past President of Ycaf. Special invitees, participants who are joining us online, my fellow members of Ycaf, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you. It gives me great pleasure to address you at the annual general meeting of the Young Chartered Accountants Forum for the term 2020 to 2022 and the celebration of the 10th anniversary of Ycaf. We could not hold this assembly at the beginning of the term due to the pandemic and having had to postpone this assembly several times. Finally, I'm happy that today it got materialized. Ycaf was initiated by the founding president, Dr. Chamara Bandara, in 2009-2010. And today, 10 years after its inception, we carry torch passed by 5 generations that follow the vision set by Dr. Chamara Bandara. Purpose of Ycaf is to uplift the quality of the chartered accountants of CS Sri Lanka while endeavoring to enhance the public image of chartered accountants. We took this to heart and tried our best to groom our own members into becoming well-rounded professionals and to enhance the image of chartered accountants through social media during our term. I have been privileged to lead this diverse team of young chartered accountants in the governing council who were introduced a little while ago. Though we were inducted today, my team was dedicated to making a difference within our means. Especially to the young members of our fraternity, despite the challenging situation faced during the past 1.5 years. We were able to convert physical knowledge forums to virtual knowledge forum, adapting to the current situation of the country. Positive outcome of pandemic from the perspective of Ycaf are being able to encourage our members virtually and being able to share knowledge of versatile set of eminent resource personnel consisting of both local and international speakers. What we have done from June 2020 till now is 15 virtual knowledge forums or webinars, another one planned for December, 21 CPD hours including 2 hours planned for December month, engaging more than 3,000 virtual participants with an average of 200 plus participants per webinar, reaching 42,000 plus views for knowledge forums shared via Facebook. We are happy to announce that the virtual knowledge forum assisted our members to keep up their continuous professional development requirements even during the lockdown, totaling up to approximately 4,300 CPD hours. I take this opportunity to thank the resource personnel of knowledge forums, participants, CEO and the staff of CS Sri Lanka who supported us, and the knowledge forum subcommittee members who made this a reality. We have plans to continue with virtual knowledge forums and few physical events based on the circumstances. The planned physical events are a career guidance workshop, a CSR event, and fun drive. My team, the Ycaf Governing Council of the term 2020-2022, I would like to say, we stick together during these challenging and unprecedented times. Let's work together in the future also to achieve Ycaf objectives. I have enjoyed being a part of Ycaf for many years, and I would like to thank my best colleagues, Vindhya, Sachuru, and Tamishka, for introducing me to this lovely Ycaf family. Finally, we expect your support and participation in our future Ycaf activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fazir. It has been a pleasant experience working with you so far, and hope we will be able to complete your tenure on a grand note. I kindly request Ms. Nishani Pereira, Treasurer-elect, Ycaf, to announce the appointment of the auditors.
Thank you, Radhini. Good evening, everyone. Before proposing the auditor, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our outgoing auditor, RTA Sri Lanka, for the honorary service extended to us in last few years. The next, I would like to propose our new auditor, Kanesalingam and Company. And I would like to ask some of our members to second it, please. Okay, thank you, Lahiro. Okay, finally, thank you very much for the RT and company, the partners and the managers for the support extended to us in the past few years, as well as looking forward to work with Lingam and company in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishani. Next in the agenda is the most awaited session of the evening. Guest presentation by Mr. Sivan Daniel. Our Promised Land, the potential of a nation at the center of the world. Sivan Daniel is an executive group director at Capital Maharaja Group. Sivan is a Fulbright scholar, an Asia 21 fellow, and an Eisenhower Global Fellow. He sits on the Global Advisory Board of the Center for Human Rights and Humanitarian Studies at Brown University, where he is also a visiting lecturer. Sivan heads Sri Lanka's largest independent news organization, the 7-channel News First Network, whilst also spearheading Gammadda, the grassroots movement that operates across thousands of Sri Lankan villages. Sivan has addressed many global forums, including the UN World Humanitarian Summit Global in Geneva. He's an integral part of Sri Lanka's fight against modern-day slavery, with his role as the Sri Lanka lead in the Bali process, a global effort against slavery. He's an avid historian. His first book, Island of Antiquity, was published recently on Amazon. His research is focused on ancient Sri Lankan hydraulic system. He was also featured in the Sri Lankan sci-fi short film Vihari, directed by Sanun Senaviratna, the first local movie to win at the world-renowned Screamfest Film Festival. He is the global ambassador for the Sri Lanka Life Saving Association. He is internationally certified swift water rescuer, deployed in multiple flood rescue operations. We are indeed very much happy to have you as our chief guest this evening. Over to you, Mr. Sivan Daniel.
Thank you, Radhini. Good evening to everybody here and also to everyone connected online. First of all, a word of congratulations to the Young Chartered Accountants Forum for putting together this event. Despite all the challenges, I'm sure that you came across. It's so exciting and fulfilling when young people like yourself come together to do something meaningful and something that proves your leadership. I was really enthralled at the effort and the focus on putting together this event and even handling me because with my crazy schedule. So a big thank you and well done. One of the speakers before me mentioned the word potential and also quoted Tolkien, the famous author who wrote The Lord of the Rings, when he spoke of the ability for somebody to make a difference, no matter how big or small that person is. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you today about, particularly this word potential in your own life and also in this great nation that we've been born into. Now, I'm not going to spend any time explaining what potential is. We all know what potential is, but there's a problem with potential. You know what the problem with potential is? Once you know your potential, or once you understand the potential of something, you can't rest. You can't sit back and you can't let things happen. If Usain Bolt certainly knew his potential to run the 100 meters at 9 point something. Once he realized that he could do it, he couldn't rest. It drove him morning, noon, and night. He knew he had the ability. All he needed to do was put in the effort. The famous marathon runner Kipchoge from Kenya. He ran a marathon in under 2 hours. Unbelievable. Unbelievable effort. He had the potential. He realized that he had it and went for it, made the effort. And also, potential gives you a different perception and perspective of where you are today and where you can possibly be in the future. Let's think about this nation for a moment. If you assess the potential of Sri Lanka, and then you contrast it with where we are today, I'm sure none of us would be able to sit in our seats. We will be so excited and so driven that we would be energetically pushing towards reaching that potential. So where are we today? All of you are accountants, so you'll understand the numbers. We're ravaged by inequality. What's inequality? And I see this every day when I travel with my team to hundreds and hundreds of villages across Sri Lanka. An unequal distribution of wealth. So which means there is wealth, it's just not distributed right. The lopsidedness of that distribution is truly unbelievable. When a few have so much and so many have so little. That's the reality in Sri Lanka today. Corruption, I'm not going to go on about corruption. We all know the story. That's kind of the reality we're facing today. And of course, today, perhaps more than even a couple of years ago, we're facing the impact of geopolitical influence. But what is the potential of Sri Lanka is the question. Where can we be? How can we explain to all of these young people who are leaving Sri Lanka so despondent, not because they want to, but because they are forced to, because they have no other option? What can we tell them? And what kind of promise can we give them that their future is going to be okay? Isn't that the gap that we need to fill as people who have been given opportunity in Sri Lanka? And for this, permit me to go back in history and bring out what I feel is something that we often overlook. And that is our ancient leadership philosophy. We're quick to quote Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Elon Musk. But I would also urge you to turn back the pages of history and take a lesson or two from our own great past. And it's interesting because it really gives you a sense of pride to realize and understand that our forefathers, our ancestors, really were world leaders. You know, we speak about the word sustainability today. I think Sri Lanka invented sustainable leadership. I'll tell you exactly what I mean. Sri Lanka's ancient philosophy of leadership was all about sustainability. Today, we're used to taking a sample of something and then extrapolating that and then forming that as the solution. The panacea for all ills. Isn't that what we all do? For example, in medicine, you have one tablet that's supposed to solve or heal everybody's headache, when all of us are individuals. We're quite different. But that's basically a Western philosophy of solving a problem. We were quite different. Our solutions were permanent. Have you heard the Sinhala phrase, Nittavata Suwakirima? What does that mean? What does the word Nittavata mean? Anybody? permanently, right? Forever, done. Now, nittavata suvakirima comes with its problems. Okay, the treatment is undesirable. You've got to go many times to the Veda Mahatya. You have to use all sorts of things that don't have a very nice smell. And it's a bit tedious and takes a longer time. But the solution is focused on the cause and not the symptom. That is our philosophy of leadership. Focusing on the cause and not the symptom. I'm going to give you an example. In ancient Sri Lanka, we had a big problem. We had a population living in the dry zone with no proper access to water. Sporadic rains, lots of rivers, but no way to really channel the water towards irrigation. Now, what would thinkers of today have done? Very simple, right? You have 106 rivers in Sri Lanka flowing out to the ocean. Just channel the water from the rivers to the fields, correct? Problem solved. That's what any other civilization would have done. What did Sri Lankans do? They understood the problem in a deeper sense. The problem was not simply providing water to a field. The problem was sustaining a population, nourishing the soil, and as much as you take from the earth, you give back. And they assessed this problem deeply, profoundly, using this philosophy. A philosophy found in the Sigalovada Sutra. If you have time, please do read it. It's an incredible thought process that was used in a very practical sense in Sri Lanka. And so what they did was they figured out that the only way to solve this problem permanently, nittavata suvakirima, is to figure out a way of nourishing the soil while irrigating the fields. And so what they did was they observed the rain patterns, they observed the topography of the land, and they began to build the greatest creation Sri Lankans have ever created, which is the weaver. The weaver. The weaver is not a tank or a reservoir. The weaver is an innovative masterpiece of Sri Lankan engineering. Each weaver has a purpose, and each weaver is part of a system that consists of maybe 20 or 30 individual weavers. And each system serves maybe 3 or 4 or 5 villages. And this is how Sri Lanka was constructed. This is how we were constituted as a nation. That's why we have the famous Vevai, Dagabai, Gamai, Pansalai. That was the unit of administration. And everybody had a responsibility. That's how our culture was born. And here's the cool thing. What was created sometimes over 2,000 years ago to serve mankind? Let's say the Kala weaver, I think 1,700 years ago, is still serving Sri Lanka. Isn't that amazing? It is still irrigating fields. It is still feeding our people. 2,000 years after its creation. We pay a lot of money and go to Greece to look at the Parthenon, and Egypt to look at the pyramids, and South America to see what the Aztecs and the Incas did. I'm not belittling those incredible civilizations, but there's nothing that the pyramids do to the people of Egypt today, except maybe obviously attract tourists. There's nothing that the pyramids in South America do for the people of those countries. There is nothing that the Parthenon does to the people of Greece. But our creations, our weaver, serves us even today. That is the Sri Lankan philosophy of leadership. And that is the assessment that our ancients did to resolve a problem. Isn't that amazing? This is the heritage that we are left with. And the contrast to that heritage, or a lack of understanding that heritage, is quite clear when you have this amazing piece of hydraulic engineering like the Parakrama Samudra, and somebody decides that the way to attract tourism is to build a jogging track next to it. It is a complete lack of understanding and ignorance of who we truly are. So the challenge that we are all faced with is not where we are today. It's where we should be tomorrow. And to do that, we have got to understand the potential of this nation. And whatever we do today has to be long-term and meaningful. We've got to get away from saving today and no thought for tomorrow. And to do that as well, we are equipped with the tools to think about the future. We have a process in Sri Lanka, in Sri Lankan culture, that assesses potential in a very simple way. It's very simple. As I'm sure as accountants will understand this even more than most. Follow the fact to arrive at the truth. Simple. That's it. Follow the fact, assess the fact, and arrive at the truth, and your action should be based on nothing but the truth. When you base your actions or decisions on something that is other than the truth, you will arrive at a result or a conclusion that you did not expect. Simple as that. And there is a beautiful sutra, the first sutra that was preached by Mihindu when he came down to Sri Lanka. It's called the Chulahattipadopama Sutra. The Venerable Mihindu never preached Buddhism. He came to Sri Lanka and he trained King Devanampetissa to think. And the philosophy of that foundational principle was simply follow the facts. He used the example of looking for an elephant in a forest. I'm not going to go into that, but I will urge all of you to please find a copy of the Chulahattipadopama Sutra if you haven't already read it, and please study it. And essentially, what it teaches you is to be very clear in following the facts and coming at an assessment of your potential. Now, if you assess our potential using that philosophy, you're going to arrive at a simple conclusion that we have been blessed to be born in one of the greatest nations on earth. And this was clearly understood by our ancients. Think about our biodiversity. You're going to be hard-pressed to find a nation that's more diverse in its biology than Sri Lanka within 65,610 square kilometers. In terms of its flora and its flora and its fauna, Sri Lanka is incredibly diverse. You have so many types of animals and insects and birds. And consider our terrain. How many different types of forests and plains and mountains and beaches do we have in this fairly limited space? No wonder we were called the Garden of Eden. That's exactly what we are. This is a Garden of Eden. We're so blessed. Think about our history. You know, Sri Lanka has something like 8 or 9 World Heritage Sites. And that means we have the highest density of heritage sites of any nation in the whole world. There are nations that have more World Heritage sites, but we have the most in a small, rather small area. Something we can be very proud of. And my assumption is that we have at least another 25 sites that can eventually make it into the UNESCO World Heritage Site list. At least another 25. Our cascade system, the Wava or the Elanga Padati, which I was just talking to you about, just made it into the UNESCO World Water Systems list. But there are so many that are just being discovered. If you just step out into any beach and look out into the ocean, 500,000 plus square kilometers of ocean is ours. Almost 9 times the landmass of Sri Lanka. This is why we like to call it the Sea of Sri Lanka. Yes, there's the Indian Ocean, but this is our sea. And unless we start calling it what it is, nobody else is going to give us that respect. It is the Sea of Sri Lanka, and it is full of potential. It is full of resources. It is full of possibilities. If it wasn't, why would the Chinese and the Americans and the Indians and the Russians be so interested in this little island? Surely they can work with India or the Maldives or whatever. Why Sri Lanka? And that's the key, understanding our potential. Because if we don't understand our potential, then we don't see the future. And then it's very easy to be part of somebody else's story. You know, as Sri Lankans, I certainly don't want to be part of the potential of Australia or Europe or America. So I feel that this is an opportunity for all of us, particularly all of the young chartered accountants, to take Sri Lanka to its potential. And you've got to hitch your own careers, your own life, your own ambitions and objectives to the potential of this country. Because it will really take you to places where you never knew existed. It'll take you to a place personally that you didn't know you could get to. And you can achieve that right here in Sri Lanka. Don't make the mistake of assessing what a few temporary custodians have made us believe Sri Lanka is to be our future. This country can be turned around like this because we have everything it takes. We just need to be super focused and serious about the future of Sri Lanka. We need to understand that other nations will have their interests, and there's nothing wrong with that. We just can't act like drunk monkeys. We wake up in the morning and we run to one country, and that afternoon we go to another country, and then we have no coherence in what we do. That weakness will be very quickly recognized, and then there is a very difficult path to return. We've got to be serious. And when countries realize that we are serious about ourselves, they will take us seriously. We have the leadership philosophy in this country. We have the human potential and human capital to take Sri Lanka to its due place on the world stage. And I'm sure we can do it. So to all of the young accountants listening, in wherever you are in Sri Lanka, around the world, do a business potential plan of Sri Lanka, assess the facts, and then think to yourself, isn't this just an open and shut case as far as a business plan is concerned? Anybody would invest in this kind of nation. It's a no-brainer. Khalil Gibran, the famous Lebanese American poet, penned a beautiful poem titled Fear. I'm going to ad-lib because I can't remember the exact words, but basically he spoke of a river. And he said, A river trembles just before it rushes into an ocean. You know, that's the end of the river, right? That's the final song for a river when it touches the ocean. And the poem says the river looks back and thinks about its journey from the mountaintops through the obstacles and the challenges, and here it is about to disappear into something enormous, and it trembles. While Khalid Gibran says that the river should not tremble because the river is not going to disappear into the ocean, but it will become the ocean. It will become the ocean. So all of you young guys, think about your journey, where you started, everything you've done to come here, to where you are. And I know the future looks terribly scary. There seems like there's absolutely no hope. But remember, you are not going to disappear into oblivion in this nation. You are going and you are destined to become part of a greater story, something that's much greater than you as an individual. And that's the promise that this nation holds. So really, the title of my speech was Our Promised Land. But in a sense, the title should be, what is our promise to this land? That we will not let her down, we will defend her to the death, and we will do what we have to do to help her reach her potential, and thereby our own. I want to thank you for listening patiently, and also wish all of you, particularly the members of Ycaf, a wonderful future. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. God bless.
Thank you, Shivan, for that insightful session. I'm sure all of us would have realized as professional what is our potential as individuals and as countries. I would like to request you to come on stage once again. I kindly request Mr. Sanjay Bandara, Vice President, CA Sri Lanka, to hand over a token of appreciation to Mr. Shivan Daniel. Thank you, Mr. Bandara. I kindly request Mr. Bandara and Mr. Daniel to take their seats. Next is a very special moment in our Ycaf journey. 10 years ago, Ycaf was formed, and the founder president of Ycaf was Dr. Chamara Bandara. Since it is a very memorable moment in the journey of Ycaf, we will be launching the Ycaf official YouTube channel. I would like to request Mr. Nishan Fernando, who was the president of CA Sri Lanka at the time the Ycaf was formed, to come on stage to launch the YouTube channel. Mr. Mohammed Fazir to assist Mr. Fernando to launch the YouTube channel for Ycaf. Thank you, Mr. Fernando, but I kindly request you to remain on stage to hand over the tokens of appreciation to the past presidents and their governing councils. So first in line is our founder members of the governing council. I would like to request Mr. Tishan Subasinghe and Mr. Ruan Pereira to come onto stage to collect their tokens of appreciation on behalf of the contribution made by Dr. Chamara Bandara and his governing council to Ycaf. Mr. Fernando, you will have to remain on stage, please. I request Mr. Tivanka Jayasinghe to come on stage to receive a token of appreciation in recognition of the contribution made to Ycaf by Mr. Amila Sugatapala and his governing council. Thank you, Mr. Fernando. I kindly call upon Mr. Sujiva Rajapaksha, past President CA Sri Lanka, onto the stage. He will hand over the token of appreciation to Mr. Jagat Pereira in recognition of the contribution to Ycaf under the presidency of Mr. Dulita Pereira and his governing council. So remain on stage, please. I would like to call on stage Mr. Tamishka Dishanayaka on behalf of Ms. Vindhya Kore to accept a token of appreciation for the contribution to Ycaf by her and her governing council. Thank you, Mr. Rajapaksha. I kindly request Ms. Dulani Fernando to come onto stage to hand over a token of appreciation. I request Ms. Jani Ganeshan to come on stage for the contribution to Ycaf under her presidency and her governing council. Thank you, Ms. Fernando. Ycaf has been very much active during the past decade in bringing together young CAs and actively contributing to the upliftment of not only the technical knowledge, but the soft skills too. The most important event of the Ycaf calendar is the monthly knowledge forums. During the past year and a half, we have been meeting our fellow members via the Zoom platform. Ms. Nayantara Suwemali and Ms. Nishadi Veragala has been heading the team in organizing these monthly knowledge forums. I would like to call on stage Ms. Nishadi Veragala to provide a brief roundup on the knowledge forums. Over to you, Nishadi.
Thank you, Radhini. In the history of Ycaf, knowledge forums has always been an important event with great participation from eminent speakers and also from our members. Knowledge forums are designed to help our young finance professionals to do better and be better. With the outbreak of COVID-19, due to the restrictions placed on organizing physical gatherings, we had to shift from our usual form of organizing knowledge forums to a virtual platform. However, the world got a lot more closer than ever before virtually, opening new boundaries. We were able to reach out to a wider audience and get connected with our members around the world. Throughout this term, we have conducted 15 knowledge forums covering both technical and non-technical topics, with speakers joining us from Sri Lanka, Australia, Malaysia, UK, and India. We take this opportunity to thank all our speakers for graciously accepting our invitation and sharing their knowledge and experience with our members amidst their busy schedules. I would like to recognize our speakers, Mr. Malit Pereira, Mr. Pramita Ranshika, Ms. May Pingling, Mr. Amita Gamage, Mr. James Wright, Ms. Vindhya Kure, Ms. Chandani Veragala, Mr. Glenn Lord, Mr. Senaka Kakirivaragudage, Mr. Anushka Vijay Singha, Yoga Shiro Ratna Nigamji, Mr. Vidusha Nathavidarana, Ms. Pravini Jayasekara, and Ms. Rasini Bandara for their contribution. We would like to recognize the contribution of our Knowledge Forum resource personnel by presenting a token of appreciation. We have a speaker of a Ycaf Knowledge Forum representing all speakers present here with us today. I would like to invite Mr. Tishan Subasingha, representative of the Council of CA Sri Lanka, to hand over the token to Mrs. Chandani Veragala, our Knowledge Forum speaker. I would also like to highlight the fact that Mr. Tishan has been connected to Ycaf throughout the past 10 years. Mrs. Veragala, if I kindly invite you to the stage.
Thank you, Nishadi. Every good thing has to come to an end. So this memorable session too. Ms. Tilni Nadesha, the Vice President Ycaf, will propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to have been asked to offer the vote of thanks at the Ycaf General Assembly proceedings held this evening. On behalf of the Governing Council of Ycaf, I would like to express my hearty gratitude to Mr. Chevan Daniel, our keynote speaker today, for his presence in this evening and sharing with us some of inspiring and stimulating thoughts during his speech. Mr. Chevan Daniel, I take this opportunity to thank you for humbly accepting our invitation in spite of the heavy commitments you have and enlightening us on our promised land, the potential of a nation at the center of the world. I also would like to extend our sincere thanks and appreciation to Mr. Manil Jayasinghe, President of CA Sri Lanka, and Mr. Sanjay Bandara, Vice President of CA Sri Lanka, and the members of the Council who are present here with us for gracing this occasion today. Your valuable presence is greatly appreciated and serve as a source of inspiration to all of us. Also, we are deeply honored to have the gracious presence of Mr. Sujiva Rajapaksa, Mr. Nishan Fernando, past President of CA Sri Lanka, and the illustrious members of the profession to grace this occasion. Dear sirs, we thank all of you for your acceptance of our invitations and participation in today's proceedings. We sincerely hope that all of you will continue to give your support and continued guidance to Ycaf in future also. Let me also thank the current and the previous Council of CA Sri Lanka for their invaluable guidance and support extended us all the time. We certainly owe a very big thank and appreciation to Ms. Dulini Fernando, CEO of CA Sri Lanka, for her generous support extended to Ycaf. Madam, we always value your advice, cooperation, and support. Let me also extend my profuse thanks to friendly cooperative staff of CA Sri Lanka for their enormous cooperation and support toward organizing this event. On behalf of Ycaf, I also thank to all the resource persons who have very generously shared their views, opinions, insight at Ycaf Knowledge Forums. Also, we extend our thanks to our past auditors for their continued support. Also, we are deeply indebted to all the past president and ex-governing council members of Ycaf, and will also be thankful to you, as it is because of your untiring efforts and steadfast commitment that we are here today. You have certainly been a tower of strength, and we acknowledge with thanks all the efforts and contribution made by you towards the success of Ycaf. I would be failing in my duty if I do not thank all those who contributed in numerous ways to make today's event the great success, as it is evident. And sincerely hope you will continue to be with us in our future activities also. Many thanks to the fellow chartered accountants who are in the audience taking time to join with us in today's proceedings. Your presence is encouraging and appreciated and gives us added strength to move forward. In fact, our efforts of sustaining a positive impact on the young members of CA Sri Lanka would be in vain if not for your active participation. You are the purpose of Ycaf. Your participation and betterment is our success. Thank you all for being with us today, and I invite all of you and your CA friends and colleagues to join with us in our future activities also. Last but not the least, cheers to the members of the Ycaf team who makes all these activities happen for their dedication and solid support. Without your earnest enthusiasm and unwavering commitment, none of this would have been possible. I look forward to a great and eventful term with the excellent breaking of the dynamic Ycaf team. Hope that together we could take Ycaf to a new height of a success for the benefit of our profession. Thank you once again, and I wish you all a very pleasant evening.
Just a note before closing, please provide your feedback via the link provided to all our Zoom and online participants. Thank you, good night, and be safe.